Hello everyone, my name is Cicely Porter. I'm a reporter at WSBT-22 News out of South Bend, and today I am at the beautiful New Buffalo Beach, where the beach has been super busy, not just for beachgoers, but also for the lifeguards. So today, there's a green flag, which means the water is open for swim and the waves are calmer, but it hasn't been like that in the last couple days. It's been a yellow flag, which still allows swimming. But like I just said, it was busy for beachgoers because of the perfect condition of the weather, but the lifeguards have been busy. Over a dozen people had to be rescued by the lifeguards in just the last 2 days. And just down the road in Michigan City, 2 more people were rescued on Sunday. So it's been a busy time, and a lot of people don't think it's going to be that dangerous in the water because the wind speeds aren't that bad. For example, today the wind speed is only 10 miles per hour, but there is still a risk. So over here, if we go over here, you can see there is a row of rocks in the water, and this is actually a no swim zone right here because this is where the boats travel in and out. But over by those rocks on the other side where swimming is permitted, that is where a current is formed, and people can sometimes get sucked in, and it can become a dangerous situation. And these situations, they happen fast. And one of the lifeguards I talked with today, he had to make several rescues yesterday, and then he heard from some of his colleagues that they had to make additional rescues on Sunday. So yesterday alone, 11 people were rescued, and then on Sunday, 5 more people were rescued, and as I mentioned, 3 more in Michigan City. 18 people total in just 2 days in our area. And Lake Michigan itself, it is more than just a typical lake. It acts as a sea or an ocean. It has currents, it has waves, and that is what makes it dangerous, because some people don't understand that this is more than just a lake. It is a major lake and it has those currents. So I'm going to read some of the posts that the lifeguard posted bringing attention to the situation. So on Monday, he performed 3 rescues throughout the day. The first one was near the beginning of the day where a kid was struggling near the rocks you see over here. He was getting pushed under the waves and couldn't get and helped him walk back to the shore. And even the lifeguard said that current was extremely strong. For the lifeguard, he said that. So if the lifeguard believes it's strong, it is probably strong for, the average swimmer, or some people who are, don't swim all the time and maybe don't have that swimming experience like a kid. So really be careful, especially around this rock area right here. His second rescue of the day, he was another lifeguard where they spotted a group of people struggling by these same rocks. It was a group of 6 people, and they were also stuck in that current. So they were fortunately able to save them, and that is really the importance of having lifeguards on the beach. Having 12 lifeguards along New Buffalo, and St. Joe, Michigan also has lifeguards. Those are the only 2 beaches in the western part of Michigan that have lifeguards, and we've seen time and time again the importance of having lifeguards, and I think this is a perfect example of it. We had lifeguards on standby and 11 people were rescued. I mean, you don't know what would happen if the lifeguards weren't there. So the third rescue was the scariest in his opinion. He was in the tower and he saw 2 jet skiers come into the harbor right here, and when they rounded the corner, they did it really tight. They made like a sharp turn, and the lifeguard went to blow his whistle and grab his megaphone to tell them to get away from the rocks. That was until he realized that someone had fallen off the jet ski and was in the water. So obviously the lifeguard jumped into action. He had to pass the rocks, and he said the current was insanely strong. But luckily all the people on the jet skis were wearing life jackets. Life jackets save lives. So he always says, wear your life jacket if you are on these boats, because you never know what happens. That sharp turn, they probably weren't planning to fall off, but they did. But luckily they did have those life jackets on, but he did mention that they weren't tight enough to really have their full effect. So when you're wearing a life jacket, make sure it is tight and you are snug in it. It should feel kind of snug, but that means it is working effectively and it will allow you to have that buoyancy in the water. And then lastly in the post, he just gives some tips to beachgoers. I do want to mention real quick though, the beach has had more rescues than ever before. And I talked with the director. She shared some insight on why that is. And she said New Buffalo Beach has really gained popularity in the last couple of years. And this beach has seen its busiest season in her time being here, which she's been here for about almost 10 years. And she said it's been the busiest, and of course with more people come more swimmers, and more swimmers can, increase that risk for rescues or situations to happen. But again, lifeguards being here, they are able to jump into action and to save those people. But New Buffalo is increasing popularity, and that is why there are being more rescues. So here are some tips provided by the lifeguard I interview in my story that is running tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern time. But he says, don't go into the water if you aren't comfortable with the conditions. So always be aware of the conditions. In the beginning of the video, I shared it is a green flag. Always be aware of what flag it is. Here at New Buffalo Beach is really great. They have a sign right when you walk in. It says the wind, it says the current conditions, it says the current temperature. It just kind of gives you an overview of the day. Another great way is to look at the WSBT-22 Storm Alert Weather app, where we will have all of that, or watch our morning newscast, or whenever before you go to the beach, whatever newscast is on. We usually talk about the water conditions, the wind conditions, and of. In the next couple of days, there's going to be a heat advisory, or just extreme heat that you should keep an eye on, because that heat, when it gets that hot, it can be dangerous. But right now, like I said, it's a beautiful day. The beach is busy. Green flags are waving, but that's not always the case. And that's why it is super important to know the conditions before even stepping a foot into the water. Going back to his tips, if the jet skis don't have life jackets on, please put life jackets on. We already talked about the importance of these life jackets. They do save lives. And then if you are caught in a strong current and it feels like it's impossible to move, you know, call for help. Don't act like you are too brave. It's their job. You know, that's why lifeguards are there, to get in and to get you out of those sticky situations, because as the lifeguard even mentioned, those currents were strong for him. So when you are struggling, call for help, because in those situations, time is everything. And then his last tip, just do your research before coming to the beach. Like I mentioned earlier in the live, this lake isn't a typical lake. This lake acts like an ocean, so be aware of that. A lot of people who aren't from the area maybe come here thinking it's just going to be a normal lake, but then they see it, and at first glance, it looks like an ocean. You cannot see the other side, and because of its massive size, it does tend to act like an ocean. So do your research before you come. Research on the lake, research on the weather, and of course, like I said, download the WSBT-22 Storm Alert Weather app. We'll let you know all the weather conditions and water conditions on there. So thank you for watching WSBT-22 News, and tune in tonight at 5 and 6, and the story will be published on our website if you're watching after today, and it'll be under this story. So thank you for watching, and my name is Cicely Porter. Follow me on socials, Cicely Porter WSBT.